Hello, and welcome to our series on the foundations and applications of distance education. Each of these short programs is designed to provide a concise introduction and overview to a single aspect of distance learning. Our series is funded by the federal government as part of the Iowa Distance Education Alliance, Iowa Star Schools Project. And throughout this series, we'll be taking advantage of the fiber optic technology of the Iowa Communications Network. Today's topic is the role of distance education within the school curriculum. The integration of distance education into our school system is an important topic. Many want to know how the curriculum is affected. To what extent does it change the content of our teaching? What are some of the changes that need to be considered to ensure equal opportunities at both the origination and distance sites? Our guest is Dr. Sharon Smaldino, Associate Professor of Educational Technology at the University of Northern Iowa. Dr. Smaldino joins us from the ICN room at UNI. Sharon, what changes to existing curriculum need to be made when we're adapting to distance education delivery?
As we look at technology and its impact at a distance on the curriculum, we need to examine this in terms of how the teacher interacts with the technology, how the teacher interacts with the hardware, and how the teacher interacts with the students. We're talking here about dealing with the curriculum and the impact that distance education can make on it. As we look at the curriculum, as we examine the ways that we pull all of this together, we need to look at what is essential. It is essential that teachers engage their students in the learning process. It is by knowing the content, understanding good pedagogy, and realizing individual differences of students that teachers can be effective. There are really three major areas that we need to look at when we're talking about curriculum and distance education. One is the learner, two is looking at the curriculum itself, and three is evaluation. And as we look at this, we're looking at it as a systemic and a systematic process. We're looking at meeting the needs of the learner, which is really the ultimate outcome for curriculum and curriculum planning. As we begin to look at the curriculum planning process, what we begin to do is look at how we can effectively meet the needs of the learner. What are some of the considerations that we need to bring into examining our learner, looking at what we need to do to meet those needs? When we look at the learner, for example, we're looking at issues such as how many students we have. We also need to look at the characteristics of our students. We need to look at whether they're coming from rural or urban areas. We need to look at them in terms of their ages, their grade levels. We need to look at them in terms of their academic level. Where are they in terms of their total academic program? As we look at these issues, as we look at these considerations, we will begin to see how our curriculum can meet the needs of those students. It's essential whenever we're working with our students that we consider that we are trying to meet their needs. We are trying to address them in terms of the overall picture. When we're talking about curriculum, we're really talking about the learner. And as we've looked at the characteristics of the learner, we now need to examine the characteristics of the curriculum to see how we can, in fact, bring about a match between the curriculum and meeting the needs of the learner. As we look at matching the curriculum to meeting the needs of the learner, we need to examine the curriculum in terms of its content, in terms of the sequence of the information. We need to look at the content in terms of the amount of information that's necessary for the students to glean and how we can help the students to construct or reconstruct meaning from that information. When examining curriculum, we want to consider it not only in terms of the traditional classroom, but also the distance classroom. So as we examine and re-examine our curriculum, there are important things that we need to look at. We need to look at, for example, graphics or materials that are already in use and see how we can adapt them. We need to look at the resources that are needed both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. For example, if a teacher has a library media assignment in which the students need to go to the library media center and get particular resources, if those are not available at the distance site, those students are handicapped. So we need to examine what this teacher is expecting and how the students may access those materials. We need to look at the adaptability, not only of the materials, but the teacher and the teacher's teaching style. We need to look at the curriculum and its adaptability to meet the needs of the students at a distance. We need to look at whether or not multimedia is being considered as part of the materials to be used. And as we look at multimedia, how can we make it accessible to all of our students?